How's it going, everybody? Today we're going to be talking about Crimson Desert and why this is a once in a lifetime type of game, and I don't think a game like this will ever happen again. Let's get started. So, Crimson Desert, this is a very fun game. One of the fun parts about this game is a lot of people online were saying that, well, it will take about 8 to 10 hours to hook you, which in my case, it was totally the opposite. It hooked me from the instant you start because at the start of the game, you do have a combat section. And one of the things I like the most about this game is the combat, how many things you can do. So I'm glad it went away from that Dark Souls-ish type of combat. I know some people like that. I'm not very fond of that. I only played Elden Ring. I haven't played any of the other Souls games. This is a type of combat that I like. You know, you parry and then you attack. It's a time-based combat, or if you have other powers, which I haven't reached yet, then it can be a lot more varied. Another thing that is amazing about this game is the amount of content that it has. It's ridiculous, the amount of content that it has, the amount of detail that it has. To me, it also leans a little bit into the negative because it does feel at some point like you are just stitching gameplay mechanics from other games together. And yeah, I get it. Taking inspiration from other games is fine, but a lot of mechanics in these games are made like one-to-one from other games. Like you have the glide from Breath of the Wild. You have a lot of mechanics from Red Dead Redemption, like how you skin animals, how do you rob these carts and take them to the fence to sell. And there's a lot of Red Dead Redemption-ish with Witcher, with Assassin's Creed, which again, it's interesting that this game has so many mechanics, and I'm pretty sure there are so many other things that I haven't even touched from what I've seen online. If people that are 50 hours in, they're still discovering stuff, which is one of the factors why I say there's no way that this game will happen again, in my opinion, because at least not in this way. And what I mean this way is this is a game that released like right out of the gate with all of these mechanics. I think they added like 5 mounts recently with a patch, but other than that, there is no DLC, at least so far, that has been planned. There is no battle pass, no nothing. It's just a complete game that has a lot of stuff, like a lot of stuff to do. The map is so big. And one of the things I like about this game is that it has a big map, but it also has fun ways of traversal. Now, right now, I'm still in the kind of starting-ish area, so I'm having to use the horse, but I know there's a dragon, there's jetpacks. If you upgrade the glider in a certain way, you can just pretty much fly through the whole map. Yeah, the fact that it has more than a horse to go around makes it very special, makes it more interesting, especially when it comes to a map as big as this. And going back to what I was saying before is the reason why this game is the way it is because it started as an MMO, and it really shows in many ways, the ways that you do the quests. So because this game was conceived as an MMO, it had to have a lot of things for people to do right off the bat without having to wait for DLCs, wait for more content, because usually when you launch an MMO, you want it to have so many things. This wasn't like a regular single player or even one of those multiplayer live services. Although yes, an MMO is pretty much a live service, but it has to have a lot of content. Now, this is an MMO that all of a sudden decided to switch to a single player game, and I know there were some troubles with that inside the studio and all, but this is very rare. It's very rare that you see an MMO all of a sudden turn into a single player game. They're thinking about adding multiplayer later, but this is, like I said, this is not something that's very usual, where you have this massive world that is built for MMO style of gameplay, all of a sudden turning into a single player. So yeah, this is one of the reasons why I don't think a game like this is going to happen again. The other reason why I don't think it's going to happen is because I imagine studios see these and they don't see, wow, a complete game that was successful. No, they're probably seeing this and say, wow, that studio missed out on a lot of money because they released everything at once and they didn't do the DLC. I really don't see any other studios doing this. And the other thing is, making a game of this size, the budget seems to have been 200 million, which it's very, very low compared to anything that's developed in the West. And yeah, it makes sense because of the salaries in South Korea. I don't think any other studio is going to make a gamble. I think Pearl Abyss make a huge gamble by releasing this game the way that it did. So the irony of this is that game studios, at least Western studios, maybe there's some studios in Asia that will do it, but at least in the West, game studios are not going to gamble that much money on a game, which is ironic because I know Sony made a huge gamble on Concord that didn't pan out. It doesn't seem that's panning out with Marathon after the billions of dollars that they spend on Bungie. And there's also Highguard. Highguard, I forgot how much was the budget for Highguard, but that was also a huge gamble and that didn't pan out. So investors and big studios and CEOs decide that it is worth the money to gamble for live service, but it's not worth it to gamble for a single player because none of them are gamers, and what they see is how much gamers are going to be spending constantly as opposed to selling a game once, making people happy, and let word of mouth make your game super successful. Another reason, and I know it's going to be a hot take because a lot of people defend this game like it's incredible how people defend this game. You cannot point out any flaw on Twitter because you'll be called like you're a yellow paint enjoyer or you're not a real gamer if you point out that this game has flaws. This game has a lot of flaws. Like the controls are very clunky. Like the controls on Red Dead Redemption, all GTA games have been super tight, and the controls on Breath of the Wild, which I'm just mentioning games that this has been compared to, have been very tight. And yes, this is an indie developer compared to those giant developers like Nintendo, Rockstar. But yeah, that's a flaw of this game. It doesn't matter how big the studio is, a flaw is a flaw. And the story is also garbage. This is one of the fewer games where every single cutscene I have pressed the forward button, and I wish the forward button went faster because the dialogue is atrocious and I could not care less about the story. I know there are a few people that like it, but this is also a good example that video games don't need great stories. Great stories with great gameplay make for masterpiece games. However, games that have great stories but don't have good gameplay are not going to be regarded as great video games. That being said, something like Crimson Desert, which has a crap story but mechanics that are fun, everyone's going to pick it up. That's just how it is. Video games are not made for big stories. Yes, big stories are great. I love them. If you've seen my dissected video for StarCraft 2, you understand that I do like narratives on games. But you gotta understand that this media is all about the gameplay. It's not about the story. Another reason why I think people are regarding this game as great, but is because the bar for this type of open world games has been set so low. See, most video games that are like this usually are very handholdy. They pretty much play for you. They have a bunch of cutscenes because, higher ups decide that it has to be more like a movie than a video game. So when a video game comes out that's an actual video game that most of what you do is playing, then it gets very high regard. And this is not something that we get very often. Like, this is the same case as Elden Ring. Elden Ring, yeah, I know Elden Ring has a deep story for those who are looking for it, but right off the bat, you don't seem to understand the story. It's just you going around killing monsters, which is what I did. I thought it was very fun. And same thing here with Crimson Desert. You just go around, I do the bosses, I liberate camps, and every now and then I stumble on a cool puzzle or something that's interesting. And that is it. It doesn't have to have a story or stop in the game for a cutscene, which this game has cutscenes, but it's not as often as most AAA games nowadays. And that is one of the reasons why this game is doing so well, because the bar has been set so low in regards of these types of games. Now, that is my opinion on Crimson Desert. Have you played the game? What do you think? Do you like the game? How many hours have you played of this game? Thank you so much for listening to me all the way to this point. Subscribe if you haven't. Leave a like and leave a comment because it goes a long way by helping the channel. And I'll see you in the next one.